Okay, strange story from Rabbi Yisachar Ber of Rodashitz. The story goes like this: that in the city of Rodashitz, which I imagine that must have been. I have to look it up where Rodashitz is, but anyway, somewhere in Europe. Let's say that it was in Poland, Hungary. There was a big Jewish community there, and as in all the places in Europe, the Jews were how do you say, ostracized from normal society, and Jews didn't really mind that at all because they didn't really want to mingle with the non-Jews in any case, except for business purposes. But there was one big problem was burial. They didn't have a place to bury their dead, and in order when someone passed away, so they had to make a long journey, like 2-3 hours, to some nearby town where there was a a place of a Jewish cemetery, and they pleaded with the baron, the leaders, and they refused to give them anything. Refused to give them. So finally, they arranged with went and they talked to the baron, and the baron said, "Okay, you know what? I'll sell you land. I'm willing to sell you land. Not like my predecessors. I'll sell you land. But you have to give me the money first. I'll give you that." They were so happy they gave him the money, and he said, "Okay, here's your land." He took him to this rocky place where there's these huge boulders and rocks and things like that. It was just impossible to dig. You just no. They didn't in those days. They didn't have tractors and steam shovels and things like that. They had to do it with their hands, and it was impossible. So, and the land was like totally, even when it would rain, it wouldn't be soft. The whole thing would be hard. So he took the money of the Jews, and that's it. The Jews were stuck. They were stuck. They lost all the money. They had this terrible place. They were left to take the. One day, so they went to the Rebbe, the holy Rebbe, Radashitz, Yisachar Ber of Radashitz, and he said that you don't have to worry. The baron, he'll give us the land. He'll give us the land. The land will be workable, and we can. So nobody had any idea what he was talking about because people were still dying and they still had to go far away. One day, it came into the mind of this baron that he wanted to take his family out for a picnic. So he put him in his fine carriage, and there was his driver, hitched up his 4 sturdy steeds, and they brought with them food, to make a little picnic. And as he was going, he got this idea that he's going to take them through the area where that he just sold to the Jews for this fantastic amount of money. And also it's going to be exciting because it's all rocky and everything, and they're bouncing around, and all the kids are laughing. Ooh, they're all, chuckling and screaming with glee, And so they're driving, says, "Look at this land that I gave to the Jews." Oh, and they're all laughing. And suddenly the carriage stopped. So the carriage stopped, and the Rebbe said, he yelled out to the driver, he opened the little door, he said to the driver, "I don't want to stop here. There's no place that we can settle over here. It's all rocky. Keep driving." He says, "Well, I would like to, but for some reason, the wheels are stuck." So what do you mean they're stuck? How could they be stuck in what they say? They're stuck in mud. So he opens up the door, and sure enough, the wheels are stuck in mud. There's this like so small puddle of mud, of water right around his carriage. So he said, "Well, you know what to do. Just hit the horses." And he says, "I'm trying, but it's just not working." And the puddle is getting bigger and bigger, and the water is rising up. So the driver says, "I don't know what to do, but I think that maybe you should get out of the wagon, as fast as possible." And he says, "What do you mean you can't drive?" So listen, I don't know what's happening. The driver says, "I don't understand what's happening, but you have to get out of the wagon." So he opens up the door and he sees that the water is already up to the floor of the wagon. It's already coming in, which means it would be up to his waist at least to jump into that water. And his children, what's going to be with the children? And meanwhile, the water starts getting bigger and bigger, like a river, and the water is rising up. So somehow or other, the driver manages to pull this Baron and his family on the top of the carriage, and the Baron starts to scream and cry. He has this horn that he blows whenever they're in danger, and he blows this horn, and his some of his men come, I guess, and the town comes, and meanwhile the pool has gotten so big that it's impossible to approach. Nobody knows what to do, how to approach the wagon. I mean, you could have brought a like a boat or something, maybe a little boat, but there's no boats over there. There was no rowboats. There was in the middle of the country. It was a rowboat, like, had like buying a rowboat in the middle of Chicago, or Chicago at least is on the water, but in the middle of in the middle of America, there was no water around. No one had a rowboat, and so some said, "Don't worry about it. I'm going home." One of the farmers said, "I'll go home." He brought a rope, and he threw the rope, and it didn't make it. It wasn't close enough. So he didn't know what. Meanwhile, the rabbi's screaming and he's yelling, "Help! Save me! Please help! Save me!" And what's going on? The water is meanwhile rising up higher and higher, and the driver, he lets the horses go, so that the horses can, at least they can sort of swim a little bit. Maybe they'll be saved. So he's stuck on the top. What's he going to do? He's screaming. So somebody brings the Rebbe there. And the Rebbe says to him, "Here, I'm throwing you a piece of paper and a pen. I want you to sign over a good plot of land for us to have our graveyard." He says, "Anything you want. I'll sign away anything you want. I'll give you money, anything you want. But how are you going to throw it?" He says, "Don't worry about it." He takes off the shoe. He takes a piece of paper that he brought with him, or a parchment, whatever, puts in his shoe with this, and a pen. And he tells one of the Chassidim to throw it. He throws it and it lands on right next to the Baron who's on the top of this wagon. And he signs it. He says, "I'll do whatever you want. I'll sign it." He says, "No, all I want is," he tells him where the plot is. "I want that we should have that should be our plot for burying our dead. And then everything will be all right. You don't have to worry about it." And I would just want to make one little correction in this story. The driver did not free the horses. I'm sorry. He did not free the horses. The horses are just sort of floundering there. They're sort of treading water with their heads above the heads above the water. He didn't release the horses. Okay. So he says, okay, he signs it over. He says, "Here it is." He throws it back. He looks at it. He says, "All right." So he said, "But how are you going to get us out of here?" Right? So the Rebbe says to the driver, "Hit the horses." He says, "What do you mean hit the horses?" "Oh, just their noses are sticking out of the ground, out of the water." He said, "Listen, do what I say. Hit the horses and it'll be all right." He's got no choice. So he lashed the horses, whoop, whoop, and the horses pull the thing out. They pull the carriage out. So the Baron and all the people there see like a double, triple, quadruple miracle, right? Suddenly the water became deep, and the Baron got saved, and the horses were able to pull it out, and only after the Rebbe said, and only after he signed everything over. From then on, needless to say, the Baron became the best friend of the Jews when he realized that they had the control over nature, and nevertheless, they wanted him to agree to them. I mean, if they wanted to, they could have killed him. They wanted him to agree and be their partner, and that's what he was afterwards. He became their partner. And in fact, this might sound like a bizarre story, and it truly is a bizarre story, but as far as I know, it's true. But it's nowhere near as bizarre as the foundation of Judaism, that God took all the Jews out of Egypt with Moses, and he split the sea. That's much big, greater miracles, and that's the whole basis, the very existence and the foundation of the Jewish nation and the Jewish religion and Jewish identity, is that God does big miracles, but he does it through the tzaddikim. Have a good day with Mashiach now.